Alright guys, now I'm back in the garage and it's actually been a couple days and I really want to talk about the tire and the rim setup that I'm going to be running on the cafe racer here. So as you would expect from CZeroMedia's build, I've been working on a couple things at the same time. Here is the front forks. I have actually removed off the bike again to chop off some of the tabs that were there for fender mounting for stock Gixxer 600 setup. I have chopped it off, grinded it down, sanded it down, primered it, painted it, clear coated it with high temperature resistant paint. So the Tokiko calipers are now zero calipers. Initially when I cleaned up the brake caliper, I was debating if I want to keep the Tokiko or just shave it off completely, and I decided to just keep the O from Tokiko to now look like a zero, CZeroMedia. So something corny, something different I want to do because it's my build and I do whatever I want. Here, by the way, are some of the tabs that I had to remove, chop off in order to get that clean look. Look at that. So what we got here is the front CB550 rim, made it to the Bridgestone Spitfire 110/90 19-inch wheel. And in the back is the stock CB550 rear rim, which is 120/90 18. I say stock because I know this is not the original tire that was on the bike, so the sizing might be slightly different, but I know that it's got the stock size rims. So for those of you who are running stock CB550 rims, which is probably like 99% of you, you can run the exact same tire size without any issues. Now if you're paying attention to what I was saying earlier, the front rim diameter is 19 inches. That's just how these bikes came, and that's how most builds go. They go with larger rim up front, smaller diameter in the rear. It doesn't really matter if you're doing a CB550, CB350, if you're doing like a Ducati build, Triumph build. A lot of cafe racers for some reason retain that larger rim up front, smaller rim in the back look. For my build though, I'm going with 18-inch front, 18-inch rear to kind of do my own thing, change it up a little bit, modernize the bike a little more. So we're gonna skip the middle for now and then talk about the tires I want to put on the motorcycle, right? So front, like I said, is going to be 18 inches in diameter, but I'll be running 110/90 18. And in the back, I'm gonna be running 140, 70, and 80. So I'll be going super wide in the back. 140 is kind of unheard of in CB550 world. In order to mount a tire that wide, you're gonna have to go with something like this, which is a 3.5-inch width rim I got from Excel. You can just tell by putting the two next to each other that the new 3.5-inch rim is going to have massive extra width to the rim. And here is where I started running into issues and spent hours and hours and hours on research, because I know off the top of my head what width tire makes to what width rim when it comes to cars, but this is the first time I'm dealing with motorcycles. Alright, so let me explain to you the process I had to go through to the best of my abilities when it comes to tire selection. First of all, when it comes to tire width measurements, some people go by standard units while a lot of people go with metric. So right there and then, there is a lot of confusion as to what tire goes on what size rim. While the tire size is metric, like it is in the car, the rim width is in inches. So here's a little chart that I found on Google that you can also search for yourself that I use to match the tire size with the rim width. So let's talk about the front tire here. My stock front tire was 110/90 19, and my aftermarket tire is going to be 110/90 18. So same height, same aspect ratio, but different diameter. When I made a decision of going with the 18-inch rim up front, I was like, oh crap, I had to buy another rim up front, which is gonna cost me a couple $100 again, but realized that the rear rim can be actually used for the front rim. So the rear rim on my CB550 stock is 18/2.5. And when you look at this chart, you got the 110/90 tire, right? Coming across would work with 18/2.5 width. STD stands for not sexual transmitted disease, but standard, right? This is the area you want to be in when you're matching these two combinations. You can go like little large or little small, but it is not recommended. And that is exactly why I removed the rear wheel, separated the rim from the hub, because I will be swapping the front and back. So So now, before we talk about the rear rim setup, let's talk about the front hub setup here. In order to mount a spoked rim like this on your CB550 with jigsaw forks, you're gonna have to have a conversion piece like this, because a stock front CB550 stem is not going to mate with your new forks. So what you need to do is get yourself a custom made hub like this. I know some people go with like a Harley-Davidson hub to save some cost and do some custom bearing, but I decided to hit up the guys from Cognito Moto to order this beautifully machined piece. Not only is this piece beautifully machined, look how extra these guys are. They put this cute little porch bag on the side that has a spacer inside. I'll show you how that's installed later. I almost don't want to even put this on my motorcycle because it's such a beautifully machined piece of art. It's gonna make my motorcycle more of a show bike than daily driven beater. What's nice about this kit is that it comes with bearings and stem inside, so you don't have to worry about fitment issues or any of that. Only thing you really need to worry about is the number of stem holes. This has 40 holes in it, which is this along the side. I went with 40 spokes because that's how many spokes the stock CB550 rim has. Another cheap option to doing this conversion is to simply run a Jigsaw 600 rim and tire up front. Obviously, if you're running Jigsaw 600 wheel up front, you don't need to do any custom work. You just pop that right up in the front after the front forks are installed. But honestly, that destroys the look of the cafe racer. I love the spoked look, and that's what makes these bikes unique. And speaking of spoked look, you need to run tubes like a bicycle in these tires because these spokes allow air to leak out. So here is the tube that came out of the rear of the bike, but you need to match the tube size with the appropriate tire width, appropriate tire height, and the rim sizing. Now I'll talk about the tube sizing once that comes in from a company called 4-in-1. Now we're going back to the rear of the motorcycle. Didn't I tell you there's a lot to this tire selection and rim selection process? One last thing I want to mention about rim size is that the rim width can be measured at two different points, at the outer bead and inner bead. So make sure when you're measuring things that you're going with the right measurement. Coming back to the rear, I wanted to run 140, 70, 18. Even though this is the same 18-inch rim, I went with a lower aspect ratio to try to get the front end to be a little taller of a tire than the rear, to try to keep that stock CB550 profile of 19 front and 18 in the back. Probably not going to be because it's a little wider, so that the aspect ratio can cancel things out. But in order to run the fatter rear tire, I had to do a lot of research. So the first issue you run into when you try to get into this 140, 130 tire width range is that you're gonna have to be running rim size of 3.5, 4.25 range. Now, because stock CB550 rear is 18 by 2.5, there's absolutely no way you can run the wider tire on the stock CB550 rear rim. So what you have to do in this case, and again, the reason why I took the rear hub away from the rear rim, is that you have to get aftermarket rim. So over here, I got the XL rim, which is 3.5 inches in width. And to mate this, I will be running a stock rear CB550 hub. This piece was specifically custom made for my motorcycle by the guys at XL. It says here 75 CB550 mounted to the stock drum hub. So let's just say that it wasn't cheap. And speaking of cheap, I don't want to mention this really or think about it, but if you were to do this Jigsaw 600 swap, out of pocket, completely paid for 100% with no discounts, would probably cost you somewhere around $2,000. So if you're keeping up with all this technical information I'm throwing at you today, you might be asking yourself, okay, CZeroMedia, but what about the spokes? How are you gonna mount this custom hub to a stock rim? That is a perfect question to ask me because I had to get custom spokes for my custom setup. I got the Cognito Moto hub with stock rim, and I got the stock hub with the XL rim. So in order to get the right side spokes for my setup, I gave Cognitomoto the combination I'm gonna be running. So here you got the jigsaw fork with 18-inch rim. This one's up front, and this one should be the rear. And the one final equation that adds to this whole rear end situation is that you cannot run a wider rim and wider tire and call it a day, because if you do that and just slap it on the bike, your tire is going to be rubbing with the chain. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So it might be a little harder with the tire and chain of the bike, but it's pretty straightforward. This is the stock sprocket on the CB550. If you run a tire wider than 130 plus, I'm going to be running 140, the tire is going to be so wide that it's going to be sticking out past where the chain is going to run. So imagine the chain is going to be running straight here, and the tire is going to stick out even further than that. So in order to make sure the chain does not rub on your tire, Cognitomoto sells a offset sprocket kit like this one. So here is the stock sprocket. I will just go ahead and remove that. It's a nice dirty piece. So check this out. Left here is the stock sprocket. Right here is the Cognitomoto's offset sprocket for wider rims. You can see that the Cognitomoto's unit has about basically additional height of the stock sprocket, right? So it offsets this much in order to create the wider rim. So you need to run this, or else you're gonna run into some serious problems. So guys, that about covers what you need to know in terms of tire size, rim size, sprocket size, tire tube size when doing a Jigsaw 600 conversion of front and wider rim in the back. I hope that was helpful. I know that was a lot of information. Just let me know in the comment section below if I was unclear with any of the topics I mentioned. You can hit me up on Instagram, DM me, whatever. But I hope this information was helpful today. This was a topic that really needs to be discussed and clarified for those of you who are doing a similar build like mine, CB550, CB350, 750, or any other cafe racer, because the same concept really applies whatever you're building. Thanks again for watching the video, guys. Please smash that like button if you haven't done so, and hit the subscribe and notification bell next to the subscribe button if you haven't done so and you want to keep yourself up to date on this build. It is just beginning. I'm gonna go ahead and take these parts to my powder coater now. I'm gonna do most of it black and maybe some of it gold. I'll see what he says. So stay tuned, guys. See you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Peace out.